This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. What makes you want to learn more about a sport? I remember what made me want to learn more about football is I was watching a game. I think it was like on CBS or something like that. And they stopped the game and they did the telestrator thing where they drew out the routes and they showed you what the coverages were. And I was like, they're not just running around, like they're doing stuff. Remember, I'm young, but they're not just running around. They're doing stuff for a specific reason. And then I watch my brother play Madden and I see that those people are running routes and doing things a specific way and that the defense has all these bubbles around it. And it made me realize that there's a lot more going on to this game than what appears on the surface, and that there was more to find out. So now I want to know. Now I'm listening to different radio shows who, have former NFL players who talk about it, and they're telling you, okay, this is why they call that. That's what drop coverage is. This is what it is when somebody buzzes. And then you get to learn more and more and dig more and more down the rabbit hole. And we're here where I'm at today. And my question is now, does that exist? Does mainstream sports talk engage the sport enough to get people to be more interested in how this thing actually works? Because from what I've seen over the last few years is that there's a gap being created. From what I can see from the portion of football fans that I interact with on a daily basis is that there is a gap being created. And I don't think this gap is the healthiest thing for sports in general, but for football specifically, which is what I'm talking about today. There are people who really get into it, right? They really watch the film breakdowns. They really try to learn as much as possible. They're subscribed to QB Film School, and they're really like trying to understand what it is that they see. And I want to make it clear, just because somebody does watch a lot of film breakdowns doesn't automatically mean that that person has a better understanding or a superior understanding of the sport than somebody who doesn't, right? Like, I'm just saying that there are people who really do take in a lot of that type of stuff. And that creates a group of people who expect sports to be engaged with in a specific way. Then there are people who really just engage with whatever sport that they're a fan of, whatever team that they're a fan of within football, by listening to whatever mainstream sports talk is available about that team. And when I say mainstream sports talk, let me make this clear. I'm not talking about like, it's just ESPN, it's just Fox Sports, it's just the national media. No, I'm talking about very specific things within those machines, right? There is Get Up and First Take. Those are the two things at ESPN that are meant for everybody to engage with, because there's plenty of good stuff that's created by the network of talent that work at ESPN. There's plenty of good podcasts, plenty of good shows. There's plenty of people who know what they're talking about that work at those networks, that work at Fox Sports and all of that stuff. That just because somebody works for a national outlet does not mean that they're mainstream sports talk, right? There's niches that even like big companies get involved with. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about the biggest of the big shows, right? The Get Ups, the First Thing, the Undisputeds, the First Takes, and whatever your local 6 o'clock morning sports talk radio show is. Like, those are mainstream sports talk shows. And my issue with mainstream sports talk is not that it exists. I think it existing helps me exist. My issue is that I think that mainstream sports talk does a bad job of promoting the sports teams and things within them that they talk about. And I'm not saying promote in the traditional sense where, they're trying to sell tickets for the Cleveland Browns or trying to create more Browns fans. That's not the goal of my channel. That's not the goal of anybody who talks about sports, is to push things for the team. We don't work for the team. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they do a bad job of promoting the game of football. I'm saying they do a bad job of making people want to learn more about whatever it is that they talk about, because they condense everything to cater to the lowest common denominator, so much so that it feels like, to me, they don't trust you to know enough to engage with the sport. And I think that assumption is wrong. I think the general sports fan, if you push them and you engage in the sport and like actually have actual sports conversations about the sport you're talking about, people will engage with that. People will learn more from that. People will want to learn more if they don't know enough. Like, I don't think people are just going to hear something they don't understand and get so mad that they never listen to sports talk again. I think people inherently want to get better. I think people inherently want to learn more about the things that you talk about. Sometimes we do get the Dunning-Kruger effect. And look, Twitter, talking sports on Twitter makes you understand just how real the Dunning-Kruger effect is, because there's a lot of people who think that they're now football experts because they watch like 2 film breakdowns from like JT O'Sullivan, right? And JT does a great job, but you're not going to learn the entire game of football in like 2 hours. But I digress. My issue, to boil it down, is it feels like people who produce these shows do not trust you to engage with football conversation about football. They want you to talk about everything but football when they talk about football. And this goes for basketball, this goes for baseball, this goes for whatever they talk about. They don't trust you to engage with the sport, so they just refuse to do it. Like, it's sports talk that's not about sports talk. It's always about, was this hit dirty? Was this play call necessary? Was this decision necessary? Like, they boil it down so much to the lowest common denominator that it doesn't ever spark anybody to want to learn more. And that brings me back to the beginning, right? Because I fell in love with this sport once I understood just how complex it was, just how impossible it was to truly master and learn and understand everything that goes into what makes somebody good at football. That's what made me love this sport as much as I do, and as much as I do to this day. And my question is, who in mainstream sports talk is even attempting to engage that person out there? There's a ton of people on YouTube willing to do it, but that person is not going to be watching YouTube videos. Like, what's going to get that person to want to learn more? I don't think mainstream sports talk has to do film breakdowns. I don't think mainstream sports talk has to talk about the differences between different types of coverages, or what a nickel set is, or what 11 to 12 to 13 personnel is. Like, I don't think mainstream sports talk needs to get that specific. But I do think mainstream sports talk would benefit if they actually engaged with the sport more than they engaged with people's feelings about the sport. And look, I get why mainstream sports talk likes to engage with people's feelings about the sport. Was that a good call or not, right? That's going to get people to call in. That's going to get people excited. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that. That's obviously something that they should do. That's something that I do on this show. My thing is, hey, if you're going to do mainstream sports talk, it's okay to do that, but I think you're doing yourself a disservice when you fill the show with nothing but that, and you don't engage with the sport at all, and you don't try to engage with the sport at more than even a semi-surface level. I don't think you do yourself a service. I don't think you do the sport a service. I don't think anybody wins out there. It's just short-term thinking. And it leads to a lot of cynicism around this game, at least itself, and a lot of misinformation about why certain things happen. And again, I understand the job that mainstream sports talk has, and I understand the cynicism around people who work in mass media, but I don't think that it's right to let that cynicism win, right? You should not assume that all of these people are incapable of engaging with the sport. Basically, what I'm saying is I want more sports talk to talk about sports. Doesn't all have to be that, right? The drama stuff, the human elements of it, that's always going to be a compelling part of sports, but the sport is also compelling. And when you refuse to engage with the sport as a sport because you're afraid that your audience can't comprehend it, the message you're actually sending to those people is that, one, you think they're stupid, and two, you don't think that that sport's that interesting. And when you do that, you're not really going to get people to engage or to watch the thing that you want them to watch so they can react to it. And it just goes down to a lot of short-term thinking that's been going on in the industry. And I think that's my biggest issue with it, and why I think mainstream sports coverage is really hurting sports in the long run. But we'll see. Maybe this will age like milk, but we'll see. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.